Right. So, hello guys. My name is Nixie Maisara. Yeah. So I'm still
Sorry,
haven't
Mr.
finished the
Raibah
book yet.
again.
I haven't finished the book yet, so I'm really like at the earliest chapters. But
Sure.
the chapter that grabbed me the most, I think it's chapter 11. There's this quote, which is at the end of the chapter. You can find this quote where there's this conversation between Mr. Darcy. Actually, they have this conversation with in the room because it's the scene where Jane went to the Netherfield to meet
Mhm.
Mr. Bingley, but then she got sick, and then Elizabeth got there to take care of her, and then there's a whole lot of the group there, Mr. Darcy's group. So there's this conversation almost at the end where Darcy says that there is, I believe, in every disposition a tendency to some particular evil, a natural defect which not even the best education can overcome. Then Elizabeth replied, she said, and your defect is a propensity to hate everybody. And then
Mm.
he replied, and yours, he replied with a smile, is willfully to misunderstand them. I really like this part because it talks about morality and perception because I really like the idea of morality, the discourse of morality.
Mm.
So, as we all know, like morality, when it talks about morality, we have this like good and bad, right? The black and white general general definition is about you doing good and you're good. If you're doing something bad, you're bad. For example, um if you donate to charity, you're good. If you do donate to charity, you're bad. So that's the general sense, but there's more into it. Like
Mm.
when Mr. Darcy said, like, in every disposition, a tendency to some particular evil, even best education cannot overcome. Meaning that even if you're rich, if you're rich, even you have a good social standing, like people perceive you as good because you're rich and you're good looking and etc. But if you have that kind of trait, like you're selfish or whatever, so you're not exactly the best of people, But
Mm.
then, like Mr. Darcy, he was perceived as somebody, the first meeting with everybody, like at the dance floor, everybody perceived him as someone is aloof, someone is very like prideful,
Mm.
like someone is not really approachable, but
Mm.
it is expected at that time for the men with such disposition, such a status to have, like Mr. Bingley, he's very nice, right? But
Mm.
Mr. Darcy is not like that. He's not like other men at that time, that kind of thing.
Right.
And
Right.
then while Elizabeth, when she said that your defect is propensity to hate everybody,
Mm.
because this is the what she perceived of Mr. Darcy, what she sees Mr. Darcy, like what everybody's been telling her. Mr. Darcy is like this, and it actually confirms her. But
Mm.
she does not, but she doesn't know Mr. Darcy that properly. When Mr.
Mm.
Darcy said that, yours, he replied with a smile, is willfully to misunderstand that. Like, Elizabeth has a good sense. I can say Elizabeth is a very opinionated person. She has a good sense. At
Mm.
one point, she said that she have met a lot of people. She loved those people, and there's some the people like she tolerate with, but
Mm.
she said that the more she knows the world, the more she's satisfied with it. Meaning
Mm.
that even though she has a good sense, she's kind of pessimist. She had that kind of pessimist thought. So when
Mm.
she met somebody like Mr. Darcy, because she's within even though within her circle, she met with everybody. She have that this kind of wavelength of thinking where she
Right.
thinks she have this best perception, which is not wrong because I think I can relate with her in terms of
Mm.
sometimes you think you have a good opinion, sometimes you think your opinion is above everybody else, but you
Right.
never met with somebody who challenges you. So that's what Mr. Darcy did. Mr.
Right.
Darcy challenges her. So I think that's what attract them both,
Mm.
because both of them, because she is not like other girl that Mr. Darcy have met, even though Elizabeth is not exactly that pretty as Jane.
Mm.
And Elizabeth never met someone like Mr. Darcy, even though have that kind of status, but he is different. The way he thinks is different. And then Mr. Darcy is kind of person that if you want to get to know him, then you know the real him. He's not the
Mm.
person who let people perceive him just because he's like that, he's rich and everything. So I think that's what grabbed me the most for this chapter. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. It is. Are you working on your thesis on the issue of morality? Is that
I'm more likely on consent, but yes, like moral obligation and
sure?
consent.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I like what you said that, or maybe you hinted at it. I can't remember. So
Mm.
morality has this kind of a black and white kind of
Yeah.
binary. So
Mm-hmm.
you're either agreeing to it or you're disagreeing to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So at the beginning of the story, you look at Darcy and Elizabeth,
Mm-hmm.
Lizzie, they
Mm-hmm.
both have a very clear-cut sense of their definition of morality, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What happens to that definition towards the end? If you looked at the quote that Jennifer read
Mm-hmm.
towards the end, and what
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer presented earlier, how
Mm-hmm.
the character somehow evolved, right? Towards
Mm-hmm.
the end, you see a kind of a different aspect of their
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote morality. So
Mm-hmm.
they started with, if I can, I'm going to choose a different color. So this is morality one by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
This is their level of morality at the beginning, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And as the story unfolds or towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
what's happened to that morality? Is it the same kind of morality, or has it changed to something else? Has it morphed to something else?
I think it becomes something more evolved. It's, morality is, I can say, it's very fickle. I mean, it
Right,
changes,
right,
depends on the more you know the thing, it changes. It just doesn't, even though Lizzie is a person with a very good Sammy, she said things that I kind of agree with, but it actually expands her horizon, her perspective when she met somebody who does not share the same wavelength as she is. Because
mm,
Darcy is still a opinionated person as well, but he has the different sense of world because he went to everywhere. He's a man. He's a businessman and
right,
everything. So the way he see things depends on the people he has met. While he has never met person like Lizzie, so
good,
basically they manage to reconcile this kind of morality. They have that kind of understanding.
good,
Like it's no longer good and bad. It's more than that. That's why I say it's fickle because it
right.
depends on the person that you've met. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So when you look at morality, if you conceptualize it, so when we come up with a kind of a morality,
Mm-hmm.
it's based on our context
Yes.
in that particular time frame. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you evolve and you meet others and you go through different kind of experiences,
Mm-hmm.
your level of morality has evolved also. Not that you're fickle necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. When you don't have that kind of an exposure to
Mm-hmm.
people from that particular background, like Darcy has, you have a
Mm-hmm.
very narrow perspective of your morality. So it's very
Yeah.
blinkered kind of morality. You see
Mm-hmm.
only what you see. You've got a very, very narrow horizon, very narrow
Mm-hmm.
scope. So your
Mm-hmm.
scope is very much based on the people you meet and the places you go to. So from the beginning of the story, the places he goes to, the people he meets are people like Bingley and
Yes.
the Bingley sisters and Lady Catherine, and those are the kind of people that he calls his community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that narrow perspective will give him a narrow sense of morality,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
And as he gets to know Elizabeth, if you like, his education
Mm.
has made him has transformed him. His education, his not a formal education, right?
Mm-hmm.
His kind of learning about the world
Mm-hmm.
has evolved because of his relationship with others,
Elizabeth.
including
Yes.
Elizabeth, including helping out with the Bennet family when
Mm-hmm.
Lydia was running away and all the rest of it. So
Yeah.
so the point that we kind of like want to make, number one, that reinforces the dynamic aspect of his character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you compare this character, Mr. Darcy, you compare the character with a lot of romantic novels and romantic fiction where the hero is, this kind of a character. Not many of them have a very dynamic hero. The hero
Yes.
kind of is good looking and suave at the beginning and still good looking and suave at the end. There isn't a kind of an evolution to the character, with a little bit of issues with morality, maybe with some attitude thrown in. The character doesn't evolve as as broadly as Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth do in this novel, right?
Yeah.
So back to your issue of morality. So at the beginning, it was very much a black and white level of morality. So that's the M1.
Yeah.
So towards the end, how has that morality evolved? That would be an interesting paper if you wanted to write a paper on that. Do you understand? So just by focusing on the issue of morality, and you've got your own theory, you bring in your theory of morality. So that, where am I? So that reading of your paper, you're looking at a particular reader's horizon of expectation, looking at a particular point, which is the issue of morality, looking at a particular character, which is Darcy, that in itself is an original reading of the paper. Sorry, a novel. Okay, is everyone following so far?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, all right. So that's the bit that I wanted all of you to kind of take away from this book club. When you read books such as Pride and Prejudice, when you're reading novels such as Pride and Prejudice, one of the issues that you always kind of grapple with is, what do I read it for? What am I focusing on? Which issue should I focus on? Which theme should I focus on? So if you come back to this book club discussion, the last 3 book club discussion, one of the things that you should come up with is that any reading is possible. You can read the text from any perspective, right? The most crucial part of it is that it has to be based on evidence. It has to be evidence-based. We are social scientists. As social scientists, we focus on producing research based on evidence. Okay, so the issue that you are discussing, the focus of your presentation or your discussion can be anything. As you notice from today's presentation, we can look at different aspects or different perspective using the same novel. All 6 of us, we look at the same novel, but we have very distinct perspective or opinion about the novel. But what matters is you need to bring in your horizon of expectation. What are you interested in? You need to bring in your horizon of expectation. What are you interested in? You need to also make sure that your reading is text-based. It has to be text-based. It's not based on what other people say about it. It's not based on your gut feeling alone. It has to be based on what is in the text. Okay? Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay,
Doctor.
All right, the last couple of minutes. Any questions?
Oh, so far okay.
You're all right so
No
far?
question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Doctor, so far no questions.
Okay. So basically that's the book club experience based on Pride and Prejudice.
Doctor, if you don't mind, may I? Hello?
Huda, yes?
Yes, doctor. I want to excuse me, you doctor and my colleague. Could we change the date from Friday, please? Because I have something urgent and I need to, attend your lecture.
No problem, no problem. But you see, I'm just saying, next week Friday is the 1st of Ramadan, inshallah.
Okay.
So I leave it to you whether you want to have another book club discussion or you want to take time out, because the week after we start classes on the 27th April onwards. We start classes. So if you want to have a session with me next week, we can have a kind of a discussion session.
Yes.
If you want to have 1 week off, that's fine as well. I mean, I'm at your disposal, so to speak. I'm kind of allowing you to make the decision on how you want to use this time at home. You can be reading your novels, and I'm hoping that you are reading not just Pride and Prejudice, but you're also reading your other novels for the course. And if you have problems with that, you want to have discussion with me, I can set up meetings on theme just for you in a different channel. I can do that. Like Ranjini and I had a discussion last week. So I set up something with her, and Huda and I have been having discussions before this. So Huda, if you want to meet me on Teams to discuss about your assignment 1, you can do that. But I will do this based on what you are interested in. But for book club, this will be the last book club for Pride and Prejudice. So if we were going to have another book club, it would have to be another novel. So I leave it to you to decide.
All right. And we'll stick to the chapters. Doctor, it will be all right if we stick to our chapters and what we had discussed.
When you mean chapters, what do you mean?
As for me, chapter 34, 5.
No.
We stick to our chapters, or do you want us to expand? I mean, what Rajini said, what my Sarah said, and what Jennifer.
This book club, Huda, has nothing to do with our comparative literature course.
All right.
This book club is purely it's just an experience of reading a novel together and reading the novel together and finding points of commonality as we're reading it. What do we think about it? What's the difference between your thought and my thought? That's it. Has nothing to do with the course that we are on. Except if you look at this slide, the final bit I want to say, if you look at this slide, some of the issues that I have highlighted here, as well as what I have highlighted last week and the week before, will be important throughout our course. So elements of literature, for instance, this is important when you're reading any works of literature. And then the engagement between text and reader, it's important when you're reading any text. So all these issues will keep coming back throughout our semester. But whatever we've discussed in this course, in these 3 sessions, the book club session, it's just outside classroom work. That's it. It's nothing to do with our course.
All right.
Okay. But when you come to do your assignment, if you want to use Pride and Prejudice, you can refer to any of these discussions, of course. Right? But it's not compulsory.
All right. All right. Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Anyone else has any comments or questions or last thoughts, last minute thoughts?
Doctor, can I ask something? It's related to our task.
Okay. Can I let me just stop recording. Okay. All right.